What if I told you that the biggest decisions in your life may not actually be yours? The career you're chasing, the clothes you wear, the people you admire, even your definition of success. What if those choices were quietly made for you years ago? Not by your parents, not by your friends, but by something almost no one can see: invisible rules. And once you notice them, you'll start seeing them everywhere. Imagine two babies born on the same day. One grows up in New York. The other grows up in a small village thousands of miles away. 20 years later, they dream different dreams, fear different things, and believe completely different ideas about what a good life looks like. Their brains aren't different. Their invisible rules are. The moment you're born, the world starts handing you instructions: how to behave, what's attractive, what's embarrassing, what's considered successful. No one ever says, "Here are the rules." Instead, you absorb them without realizing it. And after enough repetition, they stop feeling like opinions. They start feeling like reality. Think about this. Have you ever stepped into an elevator? Everyone faces the door. Nobody questions it. Now imagine turning around and facing everyone else. You didn't break a law, but everyone suddenly feels uncomfortable. Why? Because invisible rules are often stronger than actual laws. Now imagine those same invisible rules controlling your career, your relationships, your confidence, your future. Psychologists have studied this for decades. In one famous experiment, people were shown a simple question with an obvious answer, but everyone else in the room intentionally gave the wrong answer. Surprisingly, many participants ignored what they clearly saw, just to agree with the group. Not because they were foolish, because your brain is wired to fit in. Thousands of years ago, being rejected by your tribe could mean death. Today, rejection usually means an awkward moment, but your brain still reacts as if your survival depends on being accepted. That's why people stay in jobs they hate, stay quiet when they know they're right, and never start the business they've always dreamed about. Not because they can't, because an invisible rule whispers, "Don't stand out." Now think about social media. Every swipe teaches your brain something. This is what success looks like. This is the perfect body. This is how much money someone your age should have. You know those posts aren't the full story, but your brain compares anyway. That's why someone can feel perfectly happy until they spend 10 minutes scrolling. Nothing in their life changed. Only the invisible standard did. But perhaps the most dangerous invisible rule is the one you tell yourself. I'm just shy. I'm bad with money. I'm not a leader. These sound like facts, but they're usually stories. Stories repeated so often that they became part of your identity. Imagine tying a baby elephant to a small wooden stake. It pulls and pulls, but can't escape. Eventually, it stops trying. Years later, that elephant is powerful enough to snap the stake instantly. But it never does. Not because it's weak, because it believes the invisible rule, I can't. Humans do the same thing. One failure becomes, I'm not good enough. One rejection becomes, no one will ever choose me. One mistake becomes, I'll never succeed. The event ends, but the invisible rule remains. Here's the truth. Not every invisible rule is bad. Rules like honesty, kindness, and keeping your promises help society work. The problem is blindly following rules you've never questioned. So here's a challenge. The next time you catch yourself thinking, "I could never do that," pause for a second. Ask yourself one simple question. Who taught me this? Was it my own experience or someone else's belief? That single question can change everything. Because the moment you notice an invisible rule, you finally have the power to decide whether it deserves to stay. The people who change the world aren't always the smartest. They're often the ones willing to question what everyone else accepts. So tonight, before you go to sleep, ask yourself one final question. How much of your life is truly your choice? And how much is being lived by rules you never chose in the first place?